You're listening to Xsgaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander Scullion and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too.
Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome back to another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. It's been a while. I'm your host, Xander Scullion, and join with me as my co-host with the mostest, Mr. James Gruesome. What's up, James?
Greetings, everyone. Who knows what's going on? There's TurboGrafx stuff. There's government blaming video games again for violence. I don't know what year it is. I don't know what episode it is. It has been a while, but, we've had complicated schedules lately, and we do apologize, but we are back for right now. So I hope you all are doing well, no matter what you may be doing or where you may be.
Indeed, and there's been so much going on since our last episode, and I think we'll kind of catch up a little bit on what's going on, because I know we've talked about it a little bit on social media, but we haven't officially talked about some of the stuff on the podcast. And one of the big things that's coming out actually next month in September, and there's also a new model we'll talk about as well, is the Nintendo Switch Lite. It's a handheld Nintendo Switch. It doesn't have detachable Joy-Cons. It's made just for handheld. It's got a longer battery life, comes in several different colors, and it's kind of interesting. What do you think about this, James?
I like the colors, man. They kind of look like Jordan almonds and stuff. They look like some nice candy, which is pretty cool. You do hear the battery life. We've thought one of these things was going to come along, for a while. There's always rumors. You always wonder when the next model of a system is going to come out, and you end up hearing about this one. And I think it's pretty good. It seems like a slight, they're finally maybe phasing out the DS some more, and they want to stay on that portable handheld market, which obviously the Switch already has. But if you're a consumer that really, maybe you want more of that handheld experience, you don't need the TV play. Like I said, you got $100 difference there, which, that's a big chunk of change, I think, for anybody, really. So if you want the access to the games, it's there. And I think what was really cool is how, you can still use the Joy-Cons linked up to it, for some games that require them. But, it seems like a pretty cool package. Like I said, battery life, as far as a more handheld one. I kind of wonder, if I was forced with that option, I didn't have a Switch yet. Like, personally, I still would hang on and try to get, the system with the dock and spend the extra money. But it's really all up to you and, what your main purpose for that system would be. And like I said, you could get a couple of games, for that extra $100. So it's just, it's kind of cool to finally see the Switch, putting out some different versions, because that happens to every system.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the confusion with so many folks, because the thing about the thing that was very appealing when the Switch, when it was first announced, is it was a hybrid console. It was a console handheld. Their tagline was the Switch gives you the choice, and I think this is just another choice for folks who just play it handheld, that don't ever use the dock, or they have no desire to hook it up to their television. They can just get this and save $100 to put towards another game. Believe it or not, I know some folks who just played a Switch handheld, and they're like, man, this is actually kind of appealing. I kind of want to get this. And there's nothing wrong with more choices. This isn't phasing out the Switch. As a matter of fact, this kind of segues to a remodel of the Switch, and it's not really too much of a remodel. It's kind of like a little bit of a slight upgrade of Switches that just came out. If you go to a retail store and you see a Switch in a red box, that is the newer Nintendo Switch. Now, what this does is it supposedly has better Joy-Cons. It has a longer battery life, very similar to the Nintendo Switch Lite, and it's the same price. It looks the same. I've seen a couple of different videos of the technical aspect of it to see how it would perform, and it doesn't really perform that much better than the OG Switch, but I think this is just something that they put out to kind of, honestly, to kind of fight against hackers. because it is a new chip inside, and the modding community is really big for the Switch, and I think this is Nintendo's way of kind of doing that. And I mean, a lot of people forget that consoles get revisions. I mean, think about the PlayStation 3. At one point, the PlayStation 3 had 4 USB ports. Now it had 2. Then it had a complete remodel. So it's pretty interesting. I'm not going to lie. Me personally, I'm not going to be getting rid of my Switch anytime soon to get this, because, be honest, if you're just wanting to get this for a longer battery life, just get yourself a power bank, for $60. Just get one of those for longer battery life. But what do you think about this, James? Do you think this is something that would appeal to more people, longer battery life?
Yeah, it's not something I don't think people are going to get an extra console over. I think it's good for the newer consumer. And I just actually found out about this right before the show. I didn't even know. And I thought it might have been a bigger upgrade, but it really wasn't. It seems to just be battery life. I think everything else is pretty much the same. The price point, that's cool. But once again, as you mentioned, the confusion, you kind of wonder, I mean, if you want that newer system, if you're getting one, you're probably going to want that newer version. Why not get the extra battery life, if it costs the same? But I wonder, are these more readily available? I mean, I heard they were already, out in stores. Seems like they're just kind of popping up. Will you get people that will buy an older model and then be mad about it because they're like, I wanted those couple extra hours of life? One of those models where you wonder, could they have done a little bit more? Like you said, we always see the upgrades. I've never felt the need to. But if you're a new consumer to it, like I did with the PS4, I picked up the Pro. I had the choice. I was like, well, why not get, the better model, which I imagine people will go to with this. It does just seem kind of like an odd upgrade, and it's like they're just kind of sliding out, and I guess they're just going to replace the original models with these. But for me, I mean, that's absolutely, like I said, other than a DS, not a DS, a GBA SP, that was the only upgrade of a system that I really needed.
Oh yeah. I mean, personally, it's not making me go out and trade my Switch in and get a newer one. The important thing that I've noticed, though, and people have talked about, is the Joy-Cons. They said the Joy-Cons feel a little different. Like the plastic, they said it feels more like a flat finish than a glossy finish. And they were talking about, they felt like maybe these were built better. So I don't know if you've been following this, James, but Nintendo's gotten a little bit under the radar with Joy-Con drift.
I have heard about, the issues with those. I did think it's cool that this newer one seemed to come with the red and blue, which was the one I got, which, like I said, takes me back to the Game Boy, headphones originally. That's my main attachment to those colors. But yeah, I have heard about Joy-Con drift. It's something I've not experienced yet, and at the same time, I will say I don't think I've, probably, played my Switch maybe as much as some other people have, because it does seem to be pretty common. And that's always good when you can fix things like that, because you're still, I don't know if they have any kind of program where you can get things fixed or a discount, but when you kind of force people to buy more controllers due to a foul up on your part, that can leave a bad taste in people's mouths. So hopefully, they can fix that. It doesn't seem as bad as a red ring of death, but still, we want our systems and all the equipment, to work as best as it can for as long as it can.
Yeah, I was about to say that's one silver lining is Nintendo did address the problem, and they said that they are going to fix folks' Joy-Cons for free. So if you have a Joy-Con that's messed up, you can send it in. Nintendo will fix it and send it back to you. As a matter of fact, my friend Anthony, who I do Blast podcasting with, he had Joy-Con drift. And he just recently, I think about a couple of days ago from recording this, he got his Joy-Cons back, and he's happy about it. So good on Nintendo for that. The last thing I want to talk about with Nintendo right now is it launches tomorrow. I don't know if you heard about this, but a new online perk. If you have Nintendo Switch Online, they are doing this program where you can get a first-party Nintendo title, free download, You can have it for about 10 days, and if you decide you want the game, you can actually buy it off the eShop at a discount price. And the game that's going to be coming out this month, we're recording this on the 6th. I believe the program starts on the 7th. It's going to be Mario Tennis Aces, which I previously owned, but I think I might go ahead and re-download, play it for a couple of days, see how it is. But what do you think about this, James?
I'm always up for, free games, discounted games. I have the Xbox Game Pass, so like I've kind of got a little bit more used to that. And, a lot of people are not, super happy necessarily with Nintendo's online. They don't think it's that great. I think anything you can add to it, to get people to, want to go into it, any extras, because we've got a lot of the classic games. But when you actually give people access, to new ones, sometimes, it could be a good way to sample it, get some new fans to it to check it out. That one is a cool game. It's one I always meant to go back to. It actually got kind of hard, man. And I got stuck.
It did.
And, like,
yeah, the story mode got kind of intense. It was one of those games that I ended up getting free because I had done some commission work with Switch covers. Like some of my friends won Switch covers for some of their digital games, so I made my own Switch covers and sent it to them, and they sent me the money for it. And between that and some trades, I was able to get Mario Tennis without actually paying for anything. And for the most part, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool. The online was okay, but it was just one of those games that I played a little bit, and then I ended up trading it for Yakuza Kiwami 2. I was like, okay, this is coming out. I'm going to go ahead and switch it out for this. So
not a bad trade. But
no.
yeah, I mean, you get a good tennis game. They were always fun. And you throw in that story mode, which, even though we apparently both suck at it, some of y'all may, exceed a little better. And I think having that story mode in there, because there's a lot of really, fun things you can do. It's not just tennis matches. The story mode does add a lot, as hard as it may be. But it is a really cool game. And like I said, the more options, I know you'd mentioned games on Facebook the other day, like games with demos still. I ever see a demo on the Switch, I download it. If I see a demo game, I will download it and at least check it out. And that's one of the main things. If you can snag people with a little bit of freeness, it's just, anything more for the consumer and to bump up the Nintendo Online, I think, will be good for them. And, it'd be interesting to see what other games they, end up using. Will it only be first party? Will they use some other ones? It's just, I'm sure this is like a little test for it, know?
I mean, it would be great if it was like games that were just coming out that month, like say it was something like Fire Emblem Three Houses that's out right now. Say it was something like that. You could download it and pretty much rent it for 10 days and play it. And if you really like it, you just buy it, and it keeps your save files. So, I mean, you can keep playing it. But, I think it's kind of cool. I would like to see, especially more than one game a month. That'd be kind of cool if it was like 2 or 3. Because, I mean, even Switch Online is like $20 a year. That's still a pretty good deal. And you're getting all these NES games. Matter of fact, the Switch Online turns a year old next month, so I'm curious to see if Nintendo does something for the 1-year anniversary. Fingers crossed they add some Super Nintendo games. That'd be really sweet. But that would be really, really cool. I'd like that. But also, this a couple of days ago actually was the anniversary of the Game Boy as well. Did you see that?
No, I remember it seemed like a bigger deal a bit ago when it was one of the Japanese ones. So I guess we just hit the American one.
Yeah.
And that was really the one I seemed to hear more about. So I actually, surprisingly, as much as I love the Game Boy, I did kind of miss out on the U.S. anniversary. That makes me think of like when it was that I got mine, because I didn't get too many systems at launch. So I'm thinking that might have been like a little bit later. Like I think it might have been 1990 before I got my own, But I mean, that really has been an awesome system that has stood the test of time. Still has so many, fun games you can go back and play. I mean, hopefully we'll see some more of those pop up on the Switch too. Because I mean, hey,
that would be sweet.
It's a portable system, right?
That would be so cool. And it was funny because I was actually doing some research and I was like wondering, what was the last game that came out for the Game Boy? And it was a Tony Hawk game that came out in 2002. So from like 1989 to 2002, the OG Game Boy was alive and thriving, and that's kind of insane to think about that it was still alive when the GBA was just coming out.
Now, was that one fall under like Game Boy Color, or was that one actually?
It was an OG Game Boy game.
Wow.
Yeah,
Nintendo does
insane.
have that knack, hanging around where I think there still might be a Wii game coming out for a Just Dance or something, or even maybe like Wii U. There's some series that is still straggling around on one of those older systems, and it's really amazing because you don't really see that for too many other systems. Nintendo seems to be the one that always has that last game, like 5 years after a system you think is dead, and it's like there's this random game that comes out.
Yeah. And speaking of games, I do have some sad news. Tomorrow, on the 7th, is going to be the last day if you want to download and have DuckTales HD remaster on your PS3 or Wii U, because it's going to be pulled from the shop. And a lot of people have been talking about this. I mean, it's kind of interesting that out of nowhere it's DuckTales, and a lot of people are like, "Oh man, I need to go and download it now." I'm like, "You haven't downloaded it yet?" It's kind of weird, but I mean, it really comes to show you some of the bad things about digital gaming. Like I don't mind digital gaming, but I hate the fact that if a game's gone, then it's going to be pretty much gone in that sense. And I say that because, I mean, you can still download it through piracy and torrents and stuff like that. It's like the only silver lining to digital gaming is that it is archived through emulation and ISOs and ROMs, but that kind of sucks. It kind of sucks to just wake up one day and it's like, hey, that game is gone.
Yeah, any game I think that you have the tendency to want to play that is connected to any kind of possible license, especially related to cartoons. We've seen it with Simpsons, Ninja Turtles, now DuckTales. Those are ones I think that are always ones you need to keep an eye out on.
Yeah,
because you never know when that license will just end. I was actually thinking of getting it again on one of my other systems, and I was like, man, because I was like, I had it on the Wii U, which I don't keep plugged in very much, but I do actually have a physical copy of it, which is cool. So it's like I will always be able to play that. But I was thinking of getting it on a different one because it was one I didn't play it as much. I don't think I actually ended up finishing that one for some reason. But it was a really cool remake of a game. And like you said, it's sad when you see these go. But like I said, guys, keep an eye out, man, for anything licensed, movies. If you think you might want that game, go ahead and get it. Because, like you said, with this new digital universe, as many ups as there are, sometimes there's almost an equal amount of downs.
Yeah.
And the down is these games being fucking gone, and you can't get them anymore. But as long as, at least if you've bought it and have it, you can almost always re-download it, as far as I know. Now, I don't know if at some point in the future they may, put a stop to that, where these games just disappear. That is worrying, but we do have a community, an underground community, that can kind of keep up a little bit more on these and make sure these games are archived and they really just don't kind of disappear into the ether, which, I mean, that's the saddest part of it all. It's a lot of people's hard work. A lot of people, whether you paid money, the guys that worked on the game, there's so much in these, and you got to think of the countless games probably none of us ever played, that might have disappeared, and it might have been a game you never cared about. But you never know when there's going to be one of those games you really love, and it's just gone. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. I remember DuckTales. It was kind of under some controversy when it first came out because they did have a pseudo physical release at one point. I don't know if you remember this when it came out on the when it came out on the PS3, and it was like it had a case, but inside of it was a digital code. I'm like, what the hell is this? And luckily, it actually came out on disc for the Wii U, and that's what I ended up buying it for. And I can't remember myself. I ended up finishing. I remember I was kind of. I didn't really like the cutscenes too much. I remember I liked the cutscenes how they had the old voice actors, but I didn't really like the cutscenes too much. I remember it kind of threw the game off a little bit, for me personally.
Yeah, when you're so used to the old one. I did think that released, non-released digital thing like came with a golden coin, or like it came with some weird little extra. But that was one of the first games I remember where we would get these games with cases with no game, and it kind of like, well, it gives you something to put on your shelf, but it's not actually, the game. I mean, it's an empty case, but that was one of the first starts, and we see a little bit more of that now. And now, even I think with some of the Fortnite games that came in, even some of the systems, sometimes I think it was either just a code or there was a case and a code, and it was that was a strange thing for many of us, but probably everybody. But I think a little bit of some of us older people, to have this just case with nothing in it. It was kind of odd.
I can imagine myself like years from now, if I was to buy something like that, knowing my luck and my memory, I would be like going through my PS3 games, and I'd open up DuckTales. I'm like, where the fuck's the disc at? I'm like looking everywhere. I'm like, where's the disc?
That's my life with just games I have. Sometimes I'm like, oh man, I was like, I'm gonna play this game, and I open it up because I'm one of them jerks that either just like has a stack of discs, or sometimes I mix games in different cases.
See, I do that. I have a bad habit of, or sometimes double stacking a disc in a case. Like sometimes I'll put, because I'll be busy playing a bunch of games. I'll be like, all right, I want to put in this case, and I'll open up a game, and I'm like, where's the game at? And I go through all my cases, and it's like in that one game that I haven't played in forever. It's like, oh, and my copy of Ratchet and Clank, there's my Yakuza 6 right there, just chilling there. Like, how'd this happen?
It's bad. Take a note. Don't do that, because like I'm still seriously like I'm missing like 6 of my original Xbox games, and they're ones that like I could actually put on my Xbox One, which is really cool. Like Grabbed by the Ghoulies and stuff, and I don't know where they are. Like nobody borrowed these games. Like it was just my dumb self staking them somewhere else. So everybody, don't do that. Just put them back in the damn case. Do it. You'll be better off.
Yeah, that's one reason why I'm a little bit more digital focused on the Switch compared
you can't lose them.
Yeah, compared to like how I was with other consoles, because I don't know, man. Like when I take my Switch anywhere, like I usually just take my Switch with me when I go to work and stuff. I don't like to have my cases full of games. Like, you know how they have those little slots, like 16 slots?
Yeah.
I don't want to fill that up with games. I don't want to take those games with me. So I like having digital, because I'm like, say I'm playing Super Mario Maker, which I have physical, but I'm like, oh man, I want to play some Genesis Collection. I can just switch the Genesis Collection without switching cards and stuff. I'm not a big fan of that. And plus, they're so small. Those cards are so small.
It's very handy on the Switch because of that portable aspect. Because some of the cases too, like back in the day, where it's like you got all your stuff together, you had to carry it around. And I mean, I know you've had the unfortunate luck. I think your 3DS one time ended up missing. And I mean, what happens if you've got 5, 6 games, system, it's gone. It's just like that'd be tragic, man.
Yeah, I remember when that happened. That was like...
I'm sorry to bring that up.
Yeah, I remember it happened, but I mean, the only silver lining to that was it ended up making me get a 3DS XL, because I remember that's when the 3DS XL was just coming out, and I ended up finding a used one, actually. A red used one, and I got that one, and I enjoyed it for the longest time. But speaking of long time, I thought this would be a good segue to talk about our 7th anniversary, because technically in July last month was, 7 years ago, 2012, when I decided to do a podcast. And it's kind of interesting to see the progression of the podcast from like the first episode. And for some of you guys that are listening, they're like, man, I want to listen to like the early episodes of the podcast. Blog Talk Radio, if it's still there, that's where we started out on. And I will have to say the first and second episode was just me, and I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I had no idea what I was talking about. And Blog Talk was so primitive. I remember when I finally, when I got you as my third guest, and you ended up becoming my co-host, James, I remember we used to do the podcast on our phones.
Yeah, I had the portable. Yeah, I was actually I was the first guest on the third episode.
Yeah,
which would be the one it was. And I do remember sometimes I would be doing them in my in my garage. Even I'm even trying to think if I was at the house I'm at now. No, I think I'm pretty sure I was probably here. But I do remember like doing on the portable phone. Blog Talk was, I mean, it was such a nice step up. I mean, I could say sometimes you almost run into a little bit more, we've run into more issues moving from that on Blog Talk. Now it's just some of them are still like hard, not ours. Well, I'm sure ours would be hard to listen to, but even other people that stay on that format, and it feels kind of so archaic. It's almost like a audio cassette to CD. It's a very weird format, but some people have made it work. But it's one of those things where sometimes you can't really necessarily fix the quality if something's off. It can be kind of like, hit or miss, but it's still a functioning product, the Blog Talk. But, we started off there, and I think, we didn't have too many episodes on there before we had moved over, to something else.
Yeah, I think we had like 9 or 10 episodes, and then that's when I started recording like Skype calls and stuff like that, and we went to Blog Talk. Oh, not Blog Talk, but Podomatic. We went to Podomatic, which I haven't updated.
Yeah.
I haven't updated in a long time. So you folks that are listening, and you're like, man, I haven't seen an episode in a long time on Podomatic. I just haven't had a chance to update it because pretty much I edit the episode, and then after I edit it, I put it on YouTube, and then I would put it on Podomatic, and I've skipped that step, to be honest. But yeah, it's really interesting. I know personally I would love to progress the podcast on Discord, and the reason why I'm saying that is because this month Google Hangouts, which we use instead of Skype to record our podcast, it's going to be down. It's not going to be around anymore after the 21st. So I'm kind of thinking about gravitating towards Discord, because I think it would be kind of cool too, because with Discord we can record the calls and we can also do live podcasts as well. So we could have like a certain time and update the folks on Discord or on the Facebook group chat, be like, hey, we're about to do a podcast, and they can listen to us in real time, because that's something I do miss about Blog Talk, because we used to have our shows live back then as well.
Yeah, that was one of those times, and I see a lot of other podcasts like I listen to. They're doing a lot of stuff, with Discord, and there are so many options. It's crazy the way things have changed in the time, that we've done this. It doesn't even seem, like as long as it's been, because I don't know, man. Like for me, time flies by like really fast.
Yeah.
But it's been cool. Some of the older episodes are there, like some are not. As I mentioned, games getting lost into ether. I'm sure we've had a lot of episodes that kind of got lost into the ether. We've had lots of early episodes had a lot more guests, and then we just kind of started doing more, just us. We still have a lot more, friends more that, come on instead of the actual, guest of people we don't know. But one thing I think with us, it was just, even if it was a guest we had that we didn't even know that well, I think we always still had good, fun shows. I think anybody that ever came on always had a good time. Even like we had one episode where we ended up with a guest that was supposed to be someone else, and it ended up being another person. I'm sorry to whoever that was, because I don't remember who it was in particular, but it was somebody we did not know, and we ended up having a really good time, and it was always fun. And, it's like, we're still here. We still keep going, and we have been a little bit more delayed, due to crazy work schedules and such. And, hopefully as, in the future, a little bit more, we can get back more on a more, regular schedule. But, we definitely try to do what we do, and we highly appreciate everyone that listens. Jason Pollock, especially, I know was one, that was wondering, because, it's like me. I listen to shows, and it's like, man, when's the new episode?
Yeah,
exactly. So awesome to hear
that
somebody wants to hear the next episode, and I mean that's great. So I thank anybody and everybody that listens and wants to hear the next one. Just thank you so much. And I don't really plan on quitting anytime soon. So who knows? We could be doing this till we're 80. Who knows?
Yeah, we're sitting there like we're like 80 years old, still using some sort of new recording now that they have like in 80 years or something like that. Who knows? As fast as the podcast progression goes, who knows what we'll be doing in the next like 5 years or so. But one interesting thing is like I had you were my first guest, and one of the things that made you my first guest is I remember I think you had just gotten one, or maybe you've had one for a while, but the TurboGrafx 16. have you had it for a while? Like I can't remember if you had it for a while or you had just gotten it.
I think it might have been one I had just gotten. I know I'd bought one, my brother's old one, EJ. Just funny because he had ended up getting, highly into the PC Engine later, and he has one of those dual ones that can play both.
Mm-hmm.
And he was one of those people, which tells you sometimes when you sell your systems, at least many years ago, sometimes you would sell your systems, you'd always end up getting them back again.
Yeah.
And you always wonder, why did I sell it? And I had got the TurboGrafx, from him. And it's one I still have hooked up to an old, TV and pop in once in a while. And the TurboGrafx, it was a system, we both liked. It was always just a unique one that not everyone really remembered. Not everybody knew one that had one. It was a system that it tried to fight the other ones. It was kind of ahead of its time, but it still just couldn't catch up because Nintendo was such a strong force during that time that it was really hard to take them on. But TurboGrafx was a system that definitely tried, and it was one that was really fun to get again. And as we kind of see, like it's having a little bit of a resurgence once
again. Yeah, so that's what I was going to get into. I remember my thing with the TurboGrafx is I remember reading about it. I remember seeing it in, I think the only place that I really saw a TurboGrafx when I was younger was like KB Toys had one. But it was a very alluring console. It's one of those consoles that I always wanted to play and get into. And I didn't actually play my first TurboGrafx until I want to say like 2014, 2015, when I went to an anime convention, and they had this room full of consoles, and one of the consoles they had was a TurboGrafx, and I actually held the controller, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. But the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I'm like, wow, this is kind of like an anniversary of our podcast, but also an anniversary of the TurboGrafx 16 because it's coming out again as a plug and play in March 2020. Now, what's really interesting, it's going to be $100. It's going to come with 50 games, sort of. And the reason why I say this is because it's got 24 games, but it's the English and Japanese versions, which is kind of weird because they were talking about, doing kind of similar to what Nintendo did, where Nintendo had the NES Classic and the Famicom Classic in Japan, and they had different libraries, and they looked different. There were two different consoles, a Famicom and NES, and, Konami, who owns Hudson Soft, was like, yeah, we're going to have the TurboGrafx 16 in America, we're going to have the PC Engine in Japan, and we're going to have the core graphics in the UK. And everyone was like, okay, well, they're probably going to have different libraries. Well, they don't. And that's weird because the Japanese games are going to be included. Some of them are translated with the English versions, and some of them are complete Japanese anyway. Like one that really surprised me is Snatcher CD Romantic is going to be on the TurboGrafx 16 Mini, which I made a video talking about games that were like my pipe dream that I would love to have on this collection. That was one of the games that I was like, I don't think it's going to be on there, but it'd be really cool if they did put it on there. And they will, but it's not going to be English translated. Which is really weird because it's all text. The game's a very text-heavy game.
That was when they kind of put out, and I thought at first that was only going to be on the Japanese one. And then, I'd learned, because like you said, there was the three models. You assume, well, there's going to be different ones. Then as we got more info, we learned it's like, no, it actually is on there. Mm-hmm. But at the end, you can find a type of guide if you really want to play it. I think it would have been a huge step up if they had managed to do a translated version on there. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's just a way they didn't want to go. I do like the fact that we have all the libraries maybe that would have been on the individual systems are all together. You do have that crossover, which is for some of the games, I don't really need the two versions of them. I would like to have had something else. But at the same time, I don't know. It was one of those systems everybody wanted. Everybody was wondering, are we ever going to get this? We got to be getting this, right? And then we finally got it. The price tag for me, when you look at what's on it, and like I said, compared to true value of games, and what they go for, yes, it is a deal. Yes, can you play these games by other means? Yeah, of course you can. I do like that mix though, because they threw in some of the CD games, and they also had the Super Graphics.
Yeah.
I think they have the Ghouls and Ghosts version. Only had 5 games for it, and I think 2 of them are on there.
Yeah.
Which is just really cool. I do like those little nods. For me, if it was something, if it was 50, honestly, I'd buy it. Right from the start. When you push something up to 100, it's one of those ones I kind of wonder how will it go. I think it still will sell well. We've seen these more go up. I think the newest Genesis one was maybe like 80.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen these go up 30, 50 aims. Of course, you're not going to get any licensed ones. I'm a big fan of Die Hard.
I say, James, you were cutting out.
Engine
I say,
not be on there. Some people have complained about some omissions.
Hey, James.
There's only one of the pen.
Fuck. Hey, James.
Games.
Hey, James. Hello. Can you hear?
Cutting?
Yeah, it was cutting out a little bit.
Something went out.
Yeah,
I can hear. Is it back?
Yeah, it's back. Yeah, you were cutting in and out a little bit on that one.
Okay.
But yeah. Well, you were saying though was they have a couple of games though that are like exclusive on the TurboGrafx 16, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, a bunch of the games are like really exclusive on there, and like I said, you got the Super Graphics, which is only a couple games. They put those. You got CD versions. We are missing Keith Courage though.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised.
I don't know what happened to him. Don't know why he's on there. Legendary Axe is missing. I mean, Legendary Axe is that game. Honestly, I think of Splatterhouse. Well, Splatterhouse is missing too, but it's available in other sources. Like the Namco collection on the Switch. I wasn't necessarily as torn up on that because it is available elsewhere. But Legendary Axe was that one that just it was exclusively on the TurboGrafx. It was the only place you could play it. It was a really fun game. If you're a big fan of Rastan, I love Rastan on the Sega Master System, and Legendary Axe really felt like almost a pseudo sequel to those. And sadly, it's not on there. I don't really know what happened because I thought most of those were like Hudson Games, and Konami would own it all. I don't know if it was a slip up. I don't really know what happened.
Yeah.
But it's kind of sad. We're missing those. But if you like shooters, there's a ton of those on there. It's still a really, worth a fix they put on there. The Cotton games on there too. I'm thinking that might be one of the ones. They do got a 9. I'm kind of curious to sell though at that price point.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really excited is it does come with the Ys books 1 and 2. I was like that's really really cool because I really enjoyed the Turbo CD version of Ys books 1 and 2, and that would be great. Of course, it's going to have Rondo of Blood. Of course, there's other means to play Rondo of Blood as well. My thing is I don't know if I want to buy it yet. It's something I do have under my radar because I'm not huge in the mini consoles because I have other means of playing those games. But it is a TurboGrafx, and that would be really really cool to support Konami and Hudson Soft and get something like that. But I'm also very curious to see how this thing's going to be hackable. I'm not going to lie. I mean, we've seen all these mini consoles when they come out. All these mini consoles, when they come out, there's a way that it can get hacked. I mean, matter of fact, just a couple of weeks ago, the PlayStation 1 Classic was on sale on Prime Day for like $20, and it was just like $20 plus, a little USB, and boom, you got yourself a really good PlayStation emulator that plays, all these PlayStation games and has 2 controllers. So I would like to see what the hacking community can do to the TurboGrafx-16 and maybe possibly even add English patches to, say, games like Snatch or CD Romantic. I mean, if they make a patch and it's easy to install, boom, I'm going to be getting a TurboGrafx-16 Mini, definitely.
Now, if you had to pick, which one would you get out of the 3 models?
I would probably get the PC Engine one. I really, to be honest, the PC Engine is probably one of my favorite looking consoles. I mean, it's very small, very compact, but I don't know what it is about it. It's just a really cool little console. Like, I really like that console look. It's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, I don't know, just because the core graphics is such an odd one. That's the one kind of I leaned a little bit more towards. But of course, I mean, like you said, the hacking will be available. And like at the end, it's still really cool just to finally see this, because there's a lot of people maybe that have never played it. Like we said, plug and play sometimes are maybe not for that hardcore gamer. This could open up a whole lot to people that just want something easy, that just want this one thing, plug in, play it. It's great. It's such a odd system, as we said, that so many of us love. But I'm really curious to see how this one's going to sell. And I mean, I do hope it does good. And like we said, hey, it's good to support it, because that just shows that people do want these games, and that hopefully again could make it available maybe on a collection, on Switch or any other system. Maybe we can finally see Legendary Acts again. If more people buy this, we can see these pop up on virtual consoles, across all the systems. So it's always good to support these things like this that are, really awesome, and show them that, hey, we still want these damn games.
Yeah, the interesting thing for me is I'm wondering how it's going to sell, because, with the NES Classic and, say, even the Sega Genesis Classic that comes out next month, there's that nostalgia. There's those folks that, I mean, I really think these mini consoles are for those folks who, go to, say, a GameStop, they're buying a new PlayStation 4 game, they see an NES plug and play, and they're like, holy shit, I remember growing up playing Super Mario Brothers 3. This has all the Marios? Okay, I'm going to buy this. Or the Sega Genesis Mini, like, oh man, I love playing Sonic, I love playing Gunstar Heroes and Alter Beast, I'm going to buy this. So I'm wondering with the TurboGrafx-16, because it was a much more niche console in North America, I'm wondering if we're going to have that same nostalgia. Like, it's going to be, I'm honestly, like, if I go into a GameStop and I see the TurboGrafx-16 and I see someone like, oh man, look, a TurboGrafx-16, that person's automatically going to be my friend. I'm like, holy shit, the TurboGrafx-16? Because even people in the 90s had that same reaction, because not everyone had a TurboGrafx-16. So that's going to be really interesting to see how it's going to play out in North America, especially. Like UK, I'm not sure. Japan, I could see it doing well, because it was a lot bigger. The PC Engine was a lot bigger in Japan. It even gave Nintendo a run for its money over there. But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, as you said, such a more wider variety of games, huger catalog over in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
Over here we all had maybe one friend. Like I said, I had a friend that had one, and that was how I played it. And I just remember being so colorful and bright at the time. That was what stood out like bonk. Even like I said, Keith Courage, though it's not on there. A lot of people don't really love Keith Courage anyway. It's not that it's a great game, but
it's kind of more of an inside joke, because it was like the packing game that was so bad, but we like it because it's bad.
And it was just there.
Yeah.
And at the end, maybe it wasn't that bad. And I think it should be on this system. That's my only thing. I'm fighting for Keith and Legendary Acts. Like,
yeah, definitely. Now let's get into, because we're getting close to the end of the show, and we'll get into games we've been playing recently. Man, there's been a lot of games I've been playing, but before that, I'm gonna pass it over to you, James. What have you been playing since our last show?
Yeah, it's been a bit, but I will cut it down some. I have been playing some Capcom Beat 'em Ups collection. I did pick that up on the Xbox One, which is cool, because I do like getting stuff on there still, because me and my friend have the game share, so if he doesn't have it, he can get it too. Started playing some Final Fight. Man, I went with the old classic. That one's really hard to beat. I do like how you have the option, much like the SNK collection, of playing the different regions. And I mean, the SNK collection on the Switch gives you the options of like the NES, Famicom, arcade. Like you've got a wide variety of options. This one is all arcade versions, but you can pick the Japanese or American one. And I hadn't really noticed too much difference yet in Final Fight, and it's probably something. I had been playing Judgment, which had come out since the last time. It's in the Yakuza series.
Oh yeah.
You got a little bit of there is some variedness to it. You have a little bit more detective things. I take a little bit more of a LA noirness, from it. You do have to question and talk to people. Sometimes you have to, if you're familiar with Yakuza, some of the older games, there was lots of things with cameras where you just took pictures, for fun of, just certain beautiful areas. And this time you actually take pictures of, people caught in the act of doing a crime. Some dude's cheating on his wife, and you got to follow him around. And it's all things that sound like they could be irritating, a little bit of stealth, which I always hate. But once again, the Yakuza teams pulled it off, and nothing gets me too mad.
Yeah.
I still enjoy it. It's still a game. You're in Kamurocho still. It's still the same city. Some things have changed, but I always enjoy being there. And I've really enjoyed this one. The fighting system, honestly, has been about one of my favorites. And I've been playing this game, as everybody knows, for a long fucking time. And I like it. It's just two styles. You have one for multiple enemies, and one for singular. You can always switch them up if you want. They've added some changes. You have like mortal damage. So if you're fighting not only bosses, but just like a high level gang boss on the street, if he hits you with one of, his like fired up attacks, you can actually permanently lose like an eighth of a piece of your health bar.
Oh wow!
And you can always go to the doctor, and like I stock up on these like medical bags, so you can heal yourself in the fight. But this guy can hit you multiple times. Like you could, permanently lose little increments of your health bar, but you can always get it fixed. So I try to save like the medical bags for like bigger bosses, areas like that. So there's a bit more strategy, to the fighting. And I like that change up. It kind of hits you hard at first, like, damn, So some of the fights are a little bit, tougher. And I always play Yakuza on normal. I'm always an easy guy. I play everything on easy except Yakuza because I feel like a wuss because I've been playing it for so long. It's a pride thing.
Yeah.
I have to play it on, on normal to medium. But if you like Yakuza, Judgment, it's in that same vein. It's a Yakuza game, a little bit different. I think anybody will have a blast. I did pick up a game that was much maligned for a while, the Tony Hawk 5.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah, and we had mentioned, hopefully, coming up soon, we might have a topic of skateboarding games because there has been so many over the course of time. Tony Hawk has always been the king, and I wanted a Tony Hawk game. Sometimes you want a skateboard game. It's like maybe you want a wrestling game, maybe you want a basketball game. It's a game we've been playing, for almost 20 years now, many of us. And I got it. I used some points at GameStop, and I got it for like $10. And I could say I've been enjoying it, man. Like I'm terrible at Tony Hawk, so I'm not really a good judge on if it's a quality game or not, but I've had some fun with it. Picked up a couple games on the Switch store. I highly recommend going to the games on sale, a great deals section.
Oh man, that area on the eShop, it's trouble.
Dude.
It is trouble for me.
I say if you want to have a good time, man, put in either 10 or $20, whatever you can spare, and just see what you can get for that amount. And there's games that were $15 that were $1. There was this one 911 game which I opted not to get because it looked kind of dull, but it might be fun. But it was $15. It was $1. It was a fishing game that was $15. And it was also $1. I picked up The Way, which is one of the games I describe as like a crappy graphics game. You know, a little bit more low budget, but it's one I've actually really I kind of dug, especially for $1. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that might be persuading me a little bit to say that, you know, it's good, but it's kind of a it's 2D side scroller, you know, with some action, makes you kind of think a little bit of you know, like Out of This World and such, without the weird Prince of Persia jumps. But it's got some puzzling to it. I did pick up Kia, which would be like, you know, for anybody's done martial arts, you know, when you punch somebody, you go, Kia, you know. This game is more, it's like a samurai-based game. Um, Slightly akin to One Strike, which is a Switch game where you kind of have a samurai duels. It's kind of like Bushido Blade. You can kill each other in one hit. But Kia is kind of like a Kengo Lite. If anybody played Kengo on the PS2, it's just like a, you know, samurai game. You go through, chop down some bamboo. You had a couple fights. It's very basic. You know, you have some fights and you can kill each other in, you know, one strike. Sometimes you're just chopping items flying at you. I'm always a big samurai, you know, game fan, so anything like that I'm always kind of drawn to. Like I said, it's $5, and I mean, hey, if you like samurais, that's fun. The Messenger, which, you know, was an awesome game on there that I need to play more of. It had some free DLC,
Yeah.
which I picked up. I just happened to see that on there, and I think you have to beat the Messenger to play the DLC.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, I haven't beaten it yet, but I still got the free DLC. But that kind of makes me want to play it more because the new DLC
Right.
looks really good. It's like on a surfboard and stuff and battling giant octopuses. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, why didn't I like, I just have a short attention span, so like I'm definitely going back to the Messenger, because I didn't even get to taste the full game, you know, because I hear you start off, it's more like Ninja Gaiden, and then it changes and it's almost more, you know, a bit like Castlevania or something, and it's I haven't, you know, experienced the full thing, so I really want to go back to that. And I did play the one game I wanted, and it was on the sale. So if there's a game you ever want on the Switch eShop, I always say wait, because at some point it's going to be on sale. It was a game called The Saboteur, and it was an old ZX Spectrum game, which is the ones you'll see that, you know, they have really bright colors, lots of red, blues, yellows, you know, very early, older 80s game, and you're a ninja infiltrating some building. And I got it, you know, for really cheap, probably a couple bucks. And I did want it, so I like saving money on it. And it's very hard, and it almost kind of feels like you're playing. This sounds kind of insulting. Sometimes it feels like you're playing one of those old LCD games.
Yeah.
I don't mean it to sound as. I mean, I had fun with those, so like I don't mean that as a knock, but I mean it is a very old, archaic game. But I like the colors on it. And they actually put the sequel out also, and these are slightly remastered versions, so they're still classic, but you do have some extras with them. And the last one I'll mention, I also got on sale, called Darkest Hunters. It was another game I saw for really cheap, and it seems to be a really cool mixture of like RPG and puzzle strategy. Like you can put armor on your character, but your battlefield is, you know, it looks like a puzzle game. You got your jewels that you have to match up in order to attack the other, you know, the enemies on the board. I played it very briefly, and at first I was kind of like, man, I don't want to play this. And then I played it for a little bit longer, and I was like, oh man, I'm like, this is, you know, it was kind of cool. So, like I said, anybody, man, if you can, get a $10 card, put it on there, and just buy $10 worth of crap. And some of it will be garbage, and some of it I think you'll really have a blast with, because, you know, they discount some games really good on there. The bad thing is games I've already purchased, I can't see the sale price. I would tell everybody the sale price was more, but I can't see them because, like, I had the habit of buying games as soon as I saw it, and usually the next week it went on sale. So I always say wait, and also check out the sales section. And it's just kind of like a hidden area on the Switch, I think, if you haven't really experienced it yet, because there's a lot of cool shit for like really cheap. Even 50 cents. There's games on there for 50 cents. I mean, it's hard to pass up a game for that cheap. Like, even if it's something I don't, like, am I going to play that? Like, I don't know. if I play it for like 5 minutes, it might be worth 50 cents. So give it a shot, everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Me myself, I've been playing a lot of Super Mario Maker 2. Me and my girlfriend actually.
You got like what? Y'all got like 150, 100 hours
Gosh,
on that?
it's over 50 hours last time I checked on the Switch, when you can see how much you've played. I mean, it was what we've been doing is doing the endless Mario challenge, and what you do with that is you just go through levels over and over again. You can get up to you start off with 5 lives. You can go up to 99 lives. We're at 99 lives right now, and we've went through 500 stages. Now, some of the stages are kind of lackluster because they're all created stages, and they're just randomly by the difficulty. We're playing it on medium, and some of the levels are just garbage. It's like you can tell it was like some 6-year-old because the level was just them spelling their name in coins, and that was it. It was like, okay. But some of them are very creative, and some of them are very ambitious. We played one that was like a ping pong level. We played some that was like a pinball level. We had one where it was like you ride this like wave of little projectiles and stuff. I mean, it was a lot of fun. They had this one stage called JFK, which was it was kind of a disturbing level, to be honest.
That's me to think. When I think, I'm like, is somebody getting shot on this?
Yeah, it was like one of those levels that you kind of it auto plays, and it was just like you were following one of the Koopas that's in the car, and he gets hit by a bullet bill, and that was the end of the level. I'm like, holy shit, like this is kind of fucked up. But they have some stuff like that. Been playing that. Also,
one thing I want to ask: how was the story mode?
Oh man, story mode is so good. You got 100 levels, and some of these stages that they add for the story, they're some of the best Mario stages I've played. It's pure like Nintendo craftsmanship. I mean, it's so good. And I mean, I tell some people that if you're not into making your own levels, if you're not into playing other people's levels, I mean, just getting the story mode alone is worth it, because you think about it. New Super Mario Bros. Deluxe, which is the Wii U port on the Switch, has about 86 levels. Super Mario World had 96 levels. Super Mario Maker 2 has 100 levels of like individual experiences for a story. So, I mean, for a Mario game by itself is awesome. But been playing that. Also playing Dragon Quest Builders 2, which, just like Dragon Quest Builders, I'll say that I'm not big into Minecraft. I'm not big into crafting, but something about these games are really addicting for me. It's like almost therapeutic. I mean, it's like when you build things for a purpose, you have structure. It's like because you have an actual story. It's not like, hey, let's have fun and build things. It's like, no, you actually have to rebuild a village and start a farm. And so it's got kind of like that Animal Crossing Harvest Moon kind of feel to it as well.
Yeah.
Which is very, very much up my alley. And like I said, I like the fact that, like, say you need to build a church, they give you a blueprint of how to build a church, like what materials you need. It's not just like free for all. So I've been having a lot of fun with that. It took me a little while to get into it. I would say probably like the first hour and a half. It's especially if you've played the first one, it's kind of like, because they're going through the whole like, you're a builder, this is how you do things. But after that, it's like pretty much, the down and gritty, and it's a lot of fun. Been playing that also. And I think this is the game that you got as well, James. Magic Hat.
No, I heard you mention that on the sale, and as we always say, check the eShop Great Deals section. I missed it. I know you said it was really cheap, and I missed out on that one, so I didn't get it. It went back to the normal price. So
yeah, but it's a really good game. It's from first glance, you think it's like one of those like cheap mobile kind of games. It's also on PC, but it's on Switch, on home consoles. But looking at it, you think it'd be like one of those like mobile, just like indie games. But it's actually pretty good. It's got like 64 levels. It's got an overhead map. It's got unlockables. You can upgrade things in the shop and stuff like that, which is really cool. And for $1.25, it was definitely worth it. It was really good. The last game I wanted to talk about is a game that was kind of an impulse buy. I actually spent like 2 or 3 days being like, I don't know if I want to buy this, but I went ahead and bit the bullet and bought it. Was Ninja Warriors, the Arcade Archive on Switch. I know they're coming out with a remake. It might be already out. A remake of Ninja Warriors Again, which is like the sequel, the Super Nintendo sequel, but they remade it. Like they added some extra things to it. But I got the OG off the Arcade Archives, and it has, different modes that you can choose. You can play the European version, you can play the American version, you can play the Japanese version. I've just been playing the American version. I might go to Japanese, see if maybe they added blood or something like that, because that was something they always kind of did when they would edit. They would edit certain like little censorship, but
like I said, it's very cool to see the different regions, which I guess the Arcade Archives does as well. I also picked it up. I did not try it yet, but that's another game. It's also tough to get. It was also on the TurboGrafx. I think it might have been on the TurboGrafx CD, and one other system. So this is one of those games that it might have been on Sega CD also.
Yeah, it was.
So it's really one of those ones that's tough to get. So if it's a game you just want to snag up easily, on a system like the Switch, it's one that is a little bit more costly. So it'd be good to pick up. Like I said, I hadn't tried it yet, but I will very soon.
Oh, and there was one more game I wanted to add in, and I haven't really played too much of it. It was one of those games that Kimberly's coworker, because he had just gotten a Switch, and we were going through his profile and looking at what games he was playing, and he had this game called The First Tree. And I watched the trailer, and I'm like, hey, this looks kind of cool. And it was like $10. I went ahead and got it. For me, it's going to be one of those games I probably play for myself, because Kimberly, she just didn't have the attention span. She's like, this is boring. Let's go back and play Mario Maker, because it's one of those it's kind of like that one Firewatch game, I believe, it's, where it's like very narrative and story driven that way. It's like you're playing as a fox, but as you venture on through the forest, the narration is this guy who had a dream that you're playing, and he's kind of talking about his life and separating from his like parents or his parents dying and stuff like that. So it's like a story within a story, because you're a female fox trying to find your cubs and get to the first tree before winter comes. So that's what you're going through. But while you're going through that, this guy's like talking about, back when I was in high school, I got picked on a lot. And the girl's like, oh yeah, you got picked on, And so, I mean, like, for me, it's one of those games that like, either you're going to like it or you're not. And for me, I'm like, I kind of want to see how it cooks up, but Kimberly wasn't having it. She's like, oh, let's play some Mario. She's like, this is boring. I'm like, okay, well, all right. But yeah.
That's when it happens. I would say, too, I also did go see a movie this last weekend. My wife always likes to go to the movies, and sometimes I'm terrible about going because, like, I try to go, but it just doesn't happen. But I went to go see the new Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which we absolutely loved. I know some people have been disappointed. I've had some friends, I think, that walked out. It's almost 3 hours. And, he kind of took the title from, Once Upon a Time in the West, one of the greatest Westerns. Once Upon a Time in America is one of the greatest gangster films a lot of people haven't seen. If you like The Godfather, Once Upon a Time in America is really cool. Even, Once Upon a Time in Mexico, that was a very, fun one from one of Tarantino's buddies. But, man, it was great. Honestly, the time flew by. I'm probably going to go see it again in the theater. It's a movie, right after I saw it, I was almost like, I could watch that again. It's kind of like there's a lot of nothing going on, but there's also a lot of stuff going on, and it has to do with an actor who's kind of trying to find his way. He's a little washed up. DiCaprio's great. Brad Pitt's great. It's got a lot of little end things. Bruce Lee's in it. Charles Manson's in it. But it's all a fictionalized account of Hollywood, and it's not really a spoiler. If you don't want to know anything about it, skip 5 seconds ahead or whatever. But I will say the thing I really loved about it was it really had a happy ending. It really is a fairy tale taking off the Once Upon a Time title. So it's just really an awesome movie. I mean, if you like Tarantino, I'd highly suggest anybody going, to see that. Like I said, I'll be going again, and I don't see too many too many movies in the theater twice, other than I think Kill Bill and House of a Thousand Corpses. So that's kind of where my head is. So. But it was awesome. I really loved it.
Nice. Well, This is going to conclude another episode of Xsgaming Podcast. And for you guys who are listening, be sure to subscribe to the channel, the YouTube channel that you're listening to this on. Of course, my channel, Xander Scullion. And leave a comment, hit the bell so you get notified on whenever there's a new video or podcast up. I know that's one of the things that a lot of people don't know about YouTube. They'll subscribe to a channel, but unfortunately you have to hit the bell, because if you don't hit the bell, then you won't know when there's new videos coming up. So be sure to do that. I do plan on moving on. I do plan on adding some more features and things to the podcast. Definitely going to upgrade. I'm wanting to do more with the podcast in the sense of, updating to iTunes, going to Stitcher. It'd be nice to start having these episodes on Spotify. That's a work in progress. And pretty soon, if we end up on Discord, we might do some live shows too. So with that being said, be sure to check out our Facebook group page. It's facebook.com/group/XSgaming podcast. So be sure to join our group page, because if we do have live shows, that's where I'm going to be posting, hey, we're going to go live, check us out. But that's for the future. But anyway, guys, as always, thanks for listening. And as always, happy gaming.
And we will try to be back sooner than later. Once again, thank you, Jason, for listening, and everyone else, and have a pleasant evening, everybody.